Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. My name's Michael Priestley, and with me, I'm joined by Daniel Allen. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Oh, very funny. And then I'm with Jerome Dowling. Say hi, Jerome.
Hi, Jerome.
So, yesterday was the culmination of what feels like a 2-year wait since when Russel T Davies announced that he was coming back to Doctor Who. And then since then, we've had a string of announcements. So Ncuti Gatwa was announced as the Doctor. They announced a sort of financing deal with Disney Plus. David Tennant and Catherine Tate announced that they were coming back for the 60th specials. And we got our first 60th special, The Star Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. I don't like Jerome's tone. Jerome, did you hate it? Jerome hated it.
Can I just say before we do start, though, of all the Doctor Who fans in the room, which was the one that watched it live?
Yeah.
I've been planning my calendar around this for months.
Well, so would I. I've been planning my calendar around it for 2 years.
Nerds.
and I had to go to a social occasion.
Oh, fair enough. And Jerome was fighting crime.
I had to call the police, living my semi-life as Batman of Southampton. Yeah. No, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, Michael. So you can get rid of your tone.
No, I know that you've spent all morning writing to the Daily Mail. Haven't you?
It was the Daily Mirror, actually. But yeah. Your point stands, I guess. No, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I thought that it felt like a very family fun episode. It kind of felt like the first time we saw David Tennant and Catherine Tate in Partners in Crime, way back in whenever it was 2000, and I'm gonna stab in the dark here and say 2008, 2009. It just felt like very family fun, a kind of silly, kind of fluffy sort of monster that kind of everyone wanted to like acknowledge as cute, turned into the main antagonist. And it did a really good job, I think, of introducing a lot of characters. There was a lot of like exposition that kind of had to be kind of had to be explained. And I felt they did it really well. Like, it's Russell. We didn't have anything to be scared of, let's be honest. Like, there's a reason everyone was like harboring for his return.
I mean, I've got some thoughts on that though. But Dan, tell us what you felt of the special first.
Yeah, well, like I was saying to you guys last night, I've kind of skipped out on Doctor Who for quite a few years because, again, I was very much a fan of the Russel T Davies era. Got a couple of seasons into Matt Smith, and for me, it just
alert.
Well, for me, and this is why I think I'm coming with a unique approach now, because I've been out of the game for a little while and kind of dipped myself back in. And I think the biggest transformation I've seen, you guys might disagree because you've seen it for the last few years, is how big of a difference the Disney budget makes this show. It is now like watching a mini movie, and like from a visual point of view, it is absolutely stunning. I think from a narrative point of view, it's just been like, it's kind of like, it's felt like jumping into a warm bath. You kind of it's nice and comfortable, like it's safe. Did
you watch it
relaxing.
in a warm bath by any chance?
I did, and I'm nearly electrocuting myself. But it was, I mean, I really.
Did you have the video and audio running on different feeds when you watched it?
It took me 2.5 hours to watch it, but we got there. The bath was freezing cold. No, I really enjoyed it. I think like you were saying, Jerome, I think a bit like a soft kind of like jump back into the pool. I think there were a lot of areas that were kind of wrapped up very quickly. Whether that was just because they wanted to kind of re-establish people first, and then in next week and the week after's episodes, we're going to see a lot more happen, quite possibly. But yeah, it really didn't disappoint.
Okay, yeah. I'm similar to both of you. So but Jerome, I think Jerome, you've watched it pretty consistently, like I have, haven't you, Doctor Who? So I never stopped watching it. So through Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, always kept watching it. My TV's been the same shit TV I've had for like 12 years, so it all looks the same to me. But especially towards the latter bit of Jodie Whittaker's era, the budget was. They did have a lot more money. It looked great. Like that was one of the things that was actually quite good about that era. Was it looked incredible. And I think that has been a bit of a step up to the Starbeast, because obviously they've got Disney money and stuff. So, it did look great. It was really, really enjoyable. For me, it was really, really enjoyable, but because I've got such cherished memories of that era of Doctor Who, and it's basically a direct sequel to, Stolen Earth and Journey's End, and then The End of Time. So, and that kind of warm, family-friendly Saturday night TV kind of Russel T Davies era of Doctor Who is the Doctor Who that I grew up with. Dan, you grew up with. Jerome, you grew up with probably William Hartnell, I imagine, the way you act. But I think it was really good for that. I thought, and it was really emotional the way that they dealt with certain things. So like Yasmin Finney's character Rose, I thought was handled so well, and yeah, it was really emotional, like how her family, how they spoke about like her transition. I thought that was so good, especially for like kids that experience that and are watching it. I think it's so good to have that representation. At the same time, I thought some of it was like really weirdly clunky. So so from the off, how they did the exposition of them breaking the fourth wall, explaining the thing, I just don't know why they did that. Like, that's what am I trying? You know how they explained their past adventures by breaking the fourth wall, and I just thought it was really like a weird choice.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it was I think it was kind of like it felt strange. It felt very unorganic for what I think we know Doctor Who as, but I think I understand why it was there. I think because there's so much that's been added to the lore, and I think as well Russell's probably trying to get a whole new generation of fans in, but I think he's also looking at kind of making it again the sort of Saturday night evening viewership. I mean, like, Mike, we can speak for ages, like, and this is maybe something that maybe it'd be interesting to get Dan's thoughts on, because you haven't really watched Capaldi and Whittaker. We have, and it did feel like very much like it became a thing of, if you miss an episode, you can be really out of the loop on what's going on and what the overarching thing is. And I think that Russell's probably looking at it going, look, we're going to just strip this back. Like, because at the heart of it, I think Doctor Who, one of the reasons it's so universal and has survived 60 years is because you can dip in and out. You can just watch an episode and appreciate an episode for the entirety of the 45 to 60 minutes of whatever it is. I think that's always been the success behind it. I think when it gets too convoluted in storytelling, it always runs the risk of isolating some fans. So I think it's always good to have overarching stories, of course. I mean, I'd love to know your thoughts on who you think the boss is that the Meep was referring to. But it was like, but I think, like, in the heart, like, all of these episodes in isolation are important.
I think that's kind of what I mean about certain like clunky dialogue. Is when the Meep says, whatever they say about like two hearts being quite rare, I'll have to tell the boss about this. I think that's really like clunky exposition, which I didn't expect from Russel T Davies's Doctor Who. But then I went back and watched The Stolen Earth and Journey's End literally like yesterday, and they, at the time when I was sort of, how many years ago is that now? 15 years ago?
About 15, yeah.
15 years ago. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I gobbled it all up like a little gobble monster. But now when I watched it back yesterday, I was like, oh, okay. There's clunky dialogue in that as well, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just part and parcel of like the Russel T Davies Doctor Who. Like, I don't know.
Dan, you said you were like really excited to get back into the 60th, but you haven't watched Doctor Who really like regularly for like a while. So like, why were you so excited to come back and watch it? Was it like David Tennant and Catherine Tate, or was it just like you just were like, oh, actually no, it's been a while and it feels like there's a big hype around it at the moment, I'll jump back in?
I'll be honest. I mean, David Tennant and Catherine Tate did play a part in that, but I think the main one was Russel T Davies, because I think, and at least from my experience and from the ones that I've saw post his era, his episodes are the most memorable ones, because for me, were always the ones where the character and the emotion would be like at the forefront of every episode, and then you'd have the monsters and everything that they would be like secondary to the characters. So you always kind of have that, for me anyway, that close fixation with the characters and how they developed, and there's a lot more heart to it. And I feel like when Matt Smith's came through, and I think Jodie Whittaker's was probably the best example because I saw bits of hers. I think it's just where the writings maybe let those doctors down, and it's not been through no fault of the actors. They've all been incredible choices. I think when you base it back to the likes of the Russel T Davies era, you can kind of, again, I can anyway, can very easily kind of like pick out certain episodes, certain monsters, certain characters, certain plot lines, because they were so wholesome and memorable. And I think after his departure and a lot of stuff he did afterwards, like Years and Years, It's a Sin, and seeing just how much more developed and more mature he's kind of become as a writer, as well as kind of keeping on to that, the importance of character and narrative, stuff like that. To see that being re-injected back into Doctor Who, which even back then was a massive switch up for the show, seeing that kind of new fresh life and injection being brought back in through his pen, it seems really, really exciting. And I think it's going to go to very incredible places. I mean, I was listening to Radio 2 the other day with both him and David Tennant, and they were saying that they're already almost halfway through season 2 of Ncuti Gatwa's show version now. So it's like there's a really strong emphasis now that he is here. He's here to almost like restore order really back into the series.
And these 3 specials are in a bit of a weird position in which, because I was reading an interview with Russel T Davies in which Disney Plus have put, are marketing these specials. They love these specials, but the actual Disney Plus Doctor Who joint marketing campaign starts with Ncuti Gatwa's first series. So it starts with the Christmas special. So these 3 episodes are in this weird space where they're kind of introducing that, but it's not fully that yet. It's not that partnership isn't fully realized in these 3 specials. This was something commissioned by the BBC. I think I've got that right. And I'm exactly the same as you, Dan. Like when he was announced that he was coming back, having followed his career with like It's a Sin and Years, I was like, because of my memories of Russel T Davies Doctor Who as well, and the fact that I thought it was absolutely impossible that he'd ever come back as the showrunner, I was like, this, I couldn't have been more excited. And that's it. Yesterday was that the culmination of a 2-year wait. So it was just like, it's so exciting. And I really loved the episode overall, but because of my nostalgia, and I just struggle with certain bits where at the end, for example, where Donna and Rose admit themselves of the Time Lord energy by holding hands and just letting it go. I don't know why that doesn't.
But there were a few choice moments where I was like, "Oh, Russell, like, come on!"
Like, because so much of the episode was amazing. Like, for example, the Doctor's new wizardry with his sonic screwdriver, where he can create these shields. That whole sequence was one of the most. Was so thrilling.
That was great. That was great. Yeah.
I've got to ask again, being the outsider here, has there been examples of the Doctor having that ability in previous seasons? Or is
not that I'm aware of.
No,
you've got the classic series under your belt, but I don't.
I've never seen that. I think it's weird, isn't it, how the certain things have evolved, like the sonic screwdriver, because it is like I wouldn't classify it as a weapon, but it has kind of become now this sort of spork, where it does everything. It's like a universal kind of Swedish Army knife, which is great, and it's fine, and I think it's good that it evolves in that manner. But it was because you look at 2005 and when Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant first had it, and it's it's game over if it's deadlocked. Do you know what I mean? And we still kind of got that in the first episode with It's This, but with when he had to kind of, or think he was going to have to kill Donna in order to get them out, sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think you've got to evolve it, haven't you? And especially, to be fair, I think the thing with Doctor Who for me is everything, because obviously the whole thing with Yasmin Finney's character, I think is great, but ultimately we all know it's going to be divisive. There are going to be some people who absolutely love it. There are going to be some people who really just go, it's too in your face. It's too you're pushing too many agendas and all of that. But I think ultimately Doctor Who's always reflected society. I think that's why it's always done well. It always evolved. It's always changed. It's always tried to like take on issues in front of it. And I think that's what's really good, is it's not afraid. In some ways, it's kind of it is groundbreaking in the way it tackles some issues. And I think it's good. I think sometimes you do need to feel like things are going to the extreme, or kind of you need to put them front and central in order for them to become normalized. And I think, you know, it's good to see, and like going back to even tools like the screwdriver or the TARDIS, it's like, you know, kids are using mobile phones at like age 7, age 8 now. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's got like Steam Decks or consoles, or they're all using kind of like gadgets from such an early age that it's like,
what's a Steam Deck and what's a console?
So this was a 1980 retrograde thing that Sylvester McCoy had to defeat the Daleks when they discovered how to go upstairs. But I think that's Dragonfire, that episode, by the way. Go watch. Not like I'm a nerd or anything. But I think it's good. I think, like, I agree with you though, Mike. I think there were elements of the episode that were clunky, that were a bit like, I mean, just like the resolution was so quickly, it almost felt like it had no substance whatsoever.
Like, for Dan's benefit, is that's been a problem with Doctor Who. It was a problem with Doctor Who in Russel T Davies' era, Brat Moffat and Chibnall's. There's so much plot, and then the ending is done in about 5 minutes, and it's so fast. This episode is really fast anyway. Like when I was watching it last night, like I was constantly, because I was enjoying it so much, I was constantly like tapping the screen to see the progress bar, because I was watching the clock on it. I was like, it's like so many things are happening, and it's all going to get resolved by the end. I was like worried, you know. But it is really, really fast paced. But yeah, I mean, it was. But the only thing I find surprising about it is a lot of those beginning scenes with Rose and Donna and what's Donna's mum called? Sylvia are so like sensitively written and really emotional, and then you have that in the same episode as them dispelling their Time Lord energy by letting it go. I just don't know how they're in the same episode. Like I don't know. But it was like you know, like a roller coaster of like, I don't know, really what I felt was like the highest quality of writing, and then you know, weird bits.
Definitely. Yeah. I think going back to what Jerome just said now, I think like you said, I think it is kind of pushing it forwards, and kind of is not so much kind of trying to throw it in your face so much as kind of planting the seed. Because Russel T Davies did this about 20 years ago when he introduced characters like Captain Jack and a whole load of other things as well. It was kind of going, well, this is a big shift in society and acceptance. And it's not so much kind of going, this is what it is. It's kind of going, well, here's not it. Although it was a very cheesy way in which it was kind of like used for its purpose later in the episode, the fact that you're kind of planting it there as a seed in a living room where like you've got kids and adults watching, kind of going, there's a potential conversation starter, away you go. And it's not kind of, I mean, there's a bit of subtlety there. I do kind of appreciate that. And I get the feeling there'll be more of that to go in these future episodes and seasons as well.
I mean, you look at going forward as well. I mean, I think it's been confirmed, hasn't it, that the next main antagonist, or the first one that Ncuti will have, will be I can't remember the name. I feel really bad about that, but it's going to be called Jinx. It's like the first drag artist to kind of take on Jinx Monsoon. Thank you, to take on like I think. So again, do you know what I mean? They're opening up conversations and kind of looks into just like already pre-existing parts of society. It's not new. It just is underrepresented. That's all. And the thing is, that's it. It's not that you're throwing something into the ether that you go, what on earth is this? We've never ever kind of explored this before. These are things that are recognizable. They're just underrepresented. So I think it's ultimately it's a good thing for the show. Yeah. And also I think, I don't know about you boys, but I think the boss that the Meep was referring to is Jinx Monsoon.
See, I thought it was going to be.
I don't think it's the toy maker. I thought I don't get.
No, you're being serious.
Oh,
no. Well, listen, when we get to our third special podcast, it's the toy. It's 100%.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
No, I honestly don't. I don't know because
Jerome probably thinks it's the fucking Valiant.
I always think
It's the
about
Daleks, isn't it, Jerome?
No. The only reason is because the whole two hearts thing, that whole thing that's going on. The toy maker already knows about the Doctor's existence, and yet the Meep was talking about someone who it sounds like has never been involved with the Doctor, which makes me think it's like setting a thing for further down the line, personally. Because the toy maker already knows who the Doctor is.
Apart from the line, two hearts are rare in this universe or whatever. Like, I wonder if the toy maker's been searching for the Doctor and now
Possibly.
the Meep has just so happened to come across the Doctor during an encounter. He said he's had two hearts. You know, I think
possibly. I tell you what as well. I think these 3 episodes feel like they're going to be much more isolated incidences than we maybe had a preconception would be the case. Do you think that and because of that, it's kind of changed my thinking that I think there's going to be a lot less cameos than I thought there would originally be. I feel like because they're more singular. I'm not saying that we won't get any. I think there'll be a couple maybe thrown in, but I don't think it will be the sort of all singing, all dancing kind of list off the roster of people who've been in Doctor Who appearances that we were expecting. But what do you guys think?
Is it?
I don't know. Just because I think it's actually meant to be more like 3 episodes. Because I actually thought like the toy maker was going to be across all 3 originally, or there were going to be kind of glimpses in and around, and the Meep was connected to that. But it feels like these episodes are more actual. Like, no, they're probably all linked. Do you know what I mean? But they can also just be watched as literally 3 specials. So what do you guys think?
I think it could be something quite similar to that. I mean, the way they've obviously promoted it over the last couple of months is, again, like you said, very surreal to sort of see that they're not all kind of like interlinked as much as they have been so far. Again, still early days because 1 episode in. I mean, yeah, most likely. I think the other thing is as well, like from what you were saying before, I reckon that the reason that it could be more kind of singular is because this is now being seen as the sort of soft reboot of Doctor Who. So they kind of want to start with like a fresh palette of sorts again. And maybe this is kind of like the springboard that's going to launch into all of that. So they are kind of re-establishing itself. Because I was going to say as well, going back to what you mentioned about timings and the fact that like stories would have to wrap themselves up quite quickly, I did kind of notice from like passing by of previous seasons that there seems to be a lot of like multi-part episodes. So do you feel like this is kind of an example of Russel T Davies bringing back the kind of monster a week plot kind of scenario, and we're seeing a bit of an example of that across the specials?
Peter Kay hasn't been seen for a while. Rumour is he's coming back.
Maybe he's the big boss.
No.
So I was reading an interview with Russel T Davies the other day in which he very clearly stated that they are supposed to be 3 standalone stories that have loose links between them. But yeah, much like that, much what Jerome was saying, that's what they're supposed to be. But also, he could be lying, you know, and
he does lie all the time
to preserve the surprises. And I think that there is something about anniversary specials that warrants a multi-Doctor element. I personally think the multi-Doctor element in these 3 specials will be, I know Jerome agrees with this, Ncuti Gatwa is going to have more of a presence in these specials than just being the Doctor who's regenerated into at the end of the 3rd one. I've got a feeling that there's going to be some sort of introduction of Ncuti Gatwa alongside David Tennant, is how I think they might do a sort of multi-Doctor approach. But for a 60th, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some sort of appearance from an old favourite. I don't know.
I mean,
would you be disappointed if there isn't? I would. I think.
I don't know. I feel like the 50th kind of like satisfied some of that craving because they really went all in on the 50th.
10 years ago, Dan.
I know, but it feels like yesterday because we barely speak. And no, but I think this time round it's because there's some rumour that Matt Smith might be popping up in this one. And I feel like with what we've heard about these future episodes, because apparently next week's is going to be almost like a horror film of sorts. It's going to be very, very different to what we expect of Doctor Who. And then the 3rd one's meant to be more kind of action-based, stuff like that. So there's plenty of opportunity in both for a previous Doctor to appear, given those set circumstances. Would I be disappointed? maybe not, but would I be surprised if someone did turn up? Yeah, absolutely. I'd be just as like enthralled by seeing like a familiar face as I was in the last one.
So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, Mike.
No, you go.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're more likely to get big returning cameos from Tennant series. So as in like him as his 10th incarnation. But yeah, I feel like that would probably be more, because like, you know how he was saying at the beginning of the episode, he was like, this face has returned, Donna's returned, there's a spaceship, everything feels like it's closing in towards her. And I feel like there's obviously going to be a reveal as to why the Doctor has the same face. They're building up to it like as the big reveal, so there's got to be something, and I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, obviously it's probably going to have something to do with the toy maker, but equally I think there'll be some sort of maybe kind of reunion of like that 10th Doctor, because even though they're separate iterations, there's clearly so many similarities between them. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be something that kind of comes together, because I can accept they're different, but also like they're so similar. Like it's unbelievable.
I was a bit surprised actually by how much the Star Beast was an episode of Russell T Davies's Doctor Who when it's here for the 60th special. I mean, I loved it, but it's here for the 60th anniversary, and it was quite, I mean, it's almost like an anniversary of Russell T Davies's era of Doctor Who, and I think he's a clever enough showrunner not to do that for the next 2 episodes. It's not just going to be a sort of celebration of the Dr. Donna period, David Tennant period. There's, I don't know. I just think there's something more.
Just before I get on, because I'd be interested to, because the next episode has actually had very, very little revealed about it, which I find really particularly interesting. Before we get onto that, just quickly, I want to ask you guys. I was really worried about Beep the Meep. It is a character that it honestly is one of the silliest things you could ever come up with, and it's only ever appeared in the novels. But I was really pleasantly surprised about how they handled it, and I thought Miriam Margolyes did a great job. Like with the voice acting, I thought it was really, really good, and I think it just goes to show, like, if the writing is strong and if the kind of scenario you put these monsters in is works, I feel like even the silliest, do you know what I mean? Even the silliest designs, the silliest monsters and stuff, you can make work, and I think it was just kudos to them, because it could. I mean, we've all seen monsters where it's gone really the other way. Not looking at you, Absorbaloff, and like it's. But it's like we've seen it happen, so I feel like they did a really good job in making it believable. And like you said, Mike, to me like a couple of days ago, the puppetry and CGI was out of this world. They did such a good job with it.
I mean, have you guys watched the is it Doctor Who Unleashed?
I've seen a bit of it. Yeah,
you watched that as well. Yeah. So the fact that it's like a combination of live action and CGI, kind of like manipulated on top of one of it, is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, completely agree. I think the Meep was. I think it's all about the way they've kind of marketed it as well, because you do always fall into that false sense of security by going, "Oh, I know what's going to happen." They've made that clear, and it turns out it's a complete plot twist. But yeah, the minute that switch happened, I nearly crapped myself. It was like it just turned evil, like really unexpectedly.
I don't know if I knew a little bit about the history of Beat the Meat, but I did expect it. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I did,
So I knew the history, but I was also like, maybe it's just different. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe because not because it's not in mainstream Doctor Who media. Maybe they'll just change the history. So it was kind of like when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, they have gone back to the origins, but it was still, they did a nice twist with it. Do you know what I mean? Like they went into that. Although when he whipped out that judge's barrister wig, I was like, what is this? What is this? What is going on?
I watched it with Sinead, my fiance, and she said, "I fucking hate this." It's not the Star Beast as an episode isn't winning round anybody who doesn't love Doctor Who already, is it? Really?
No.
You can split up into two camps.
It's not a classic.
It's not a classic. When David Tennant whipped the judges, you either love that or you hate that, and I think that separates a true Doctor Who fan to somebody who is maybe watching. Yeah, but I think that when Ncuti Gatwa starts, and they're rebranding it as season 1 when Ncuti Gatwa starts, which I know is a bit controversial for people, I think that is when we're going to get. That's when they onboard a lot of new viewers. These specials are, I think, their own thing. You know,
I was going to say, Mike, it is quite good that you've honoured that scene by wearing a similar headpiece.
Go fuck yourself.
For the viewers, Mike is wearing a what looks like a judge's barrister hat, except weirdly it's like 6 foot long. It's kind of got strands coming out everywhere, pink and blue. It's really it's very progressive and beautiful of you, Mike.
It's more like a knee sock than a hat.
Yeah.
But you suit it just as well.
Thank you very much.
Love you.
I don't know how you got the CGI fire. Honestly, it's just. Do you have a separate deal with Disney as well? Is this podcast now being broadcast by Disney? You sold us out.
It's in collaboration with Disney, but you know they didn't provide us with their technical know-how as to how to record a podcast, so we wasted 45 minutes just trying to record ourselves. Yeah. We haven't.
The listeners appreciate this.
We haven't got the Disney money.
Go on then. 2 ways to end it. Firstly, if you were to give that episode a score out of 10, what would you give it? Dan, we haven't seen you in a while. You go first.
Okay.
He was just speaking.
Can I speak now? Judge Mike. God. No, I'd probably give it a solid 7. A solid 7 out of 10. Only because I'm excited to see where it goes, and I feel like we're only just scratching the surface.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I would give it 8 out of 10, but the 8 for me is really like nostalgia. Like I loved seeing David Tennant and Catherine Tate and their relationship. I thought Catherine Tate's performance particularly was incredibly emotional when the Doctor was having to force her to remember. I thought all of that was great. So that's where my 8 comes from. Yeah. We've run out of time for Jerome, so we don't.
I loved a lot of it. I liked the fact that we had the running coming back. We had the kind of sense of drama all the time. The whole big spaceship, the kind of weird monster element. Also, the bit with the sonic screwdriver was genius. Very much enjoyed that. It was very original. But and obviously, like progressive topics in there as well. A lot to fit in. A lot of new characters. Russell did a solid job with it, but it was clunky in a few places. But to be honest, I don't really care that it was too clunky. It was just enjoyable. And having watched Chris Chibnall's episodes and really had a lot of the joy sucked out of it, it was just nice to kind of watch it and be like, it's just great to feel like a kid again. So
definitely,
I'll similar to Mike, probably the nostalgia swung it round, but I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, okay. All right. I know you've got to go, Jerome, so we'll just keep this really quick. What did you both think of the title sequence and the music?
Love the new theme.
Love the music.
It's
music's
new,
great.
Yet familiar, and I'm all for that.
Did you pick up on the little vignettes of the Doctor's the 10th Doctor's theme? I think it's the 10th Doctor's theme.
Yeah.
Yes, that was so nostalgic.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And
the titles were great, very colourful and bold. I think probably a refresher because Doctor Who had got quite dark. It had got quite adult, and I think it was kind of a return to the sort of family element. But it was cool. Yeah.
Oh, just before we do go, did anyone sort of stick around for the ending credits and hear that weird breathing either side of the screen?
That was just you in the bath, wasn't it?
That was me getting out the bath. But when I watched it again, it was. When you watch it back, it's like the end theme, and it's kind of like. Did you pick it up on that? I genuinely
didn't, because I've got such little respect for the production. I don't actually watch the credits.
Watch it again. There's like a weird. If any of the listeners have heard this, please feel free to get in touch with Mike and bombard him.
So basically, mums, if you can have a listen. To the end of the episode at the end credits and let us know about the breathing, please write in to Mike Priestley, Big Daddy @gmail.com.
My mum's not listening to this. I'll tell you that for sure. No, I didn't, but maybe I'll go back and try and hear that.
Yeah, because I was watching it again. I was on it at the end. I just thought something is wrong with my television, or there's definite it sounded a bit like Black Skinhead by Kanye West at the end.
It's what's her name? It's what's her name in series 2 when he has to climb the top of Alexandra Palace to turn her off. She's in your TV. Can't remember her name. What is she?
Oh, it's just
quickly.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, quickly get David Tennant to climb up your antenna.
And the only other thing I wanted to talk about was the TARDIS.
Oh, the TARDIS. Yes.
Good reveal, that.
Beautiful.
Oh, spectacular.
Beautiful.
Do we think that's going to be shooting out with TARDIS then, or do we think it's literally destroyed in the next episode?
I like the theme that Russel T Davies is in just enough of a shit house to go, here's a brand new TARDIS. Oh, now it's on fire. And then we get something completely different.
If it's on the BBC budget as well, they were like, you can have this for one day, and then we have to get rid of it.
Well, they've got the Disney money now.
Also, well, no, the rumor is, and this is something we've seen, so I'm not like spoiling everything. In the trailer, I believe it said the TARDIS was so scared it ran away, and I've got a feeling that's the next episode. So that's a very convenient way to get rid of the TARDIS for an episode.
Same time next week, boys, or we'll find another time. But next episode is the one that I'm probably looking forward to the most. It's like Jerome said before, it's shrouded in mystery. I read an interview with Russel T Davies in Doctor Who magazine last year in which he said he's had a dream that he can keep the opening scene to episode 2 of the special as a complete secret, and he's surprised because they filmed it in broad daylight. So it's the one that I'm most.
This is the one of all.
Do you think it's a new villain, a new threat, or do you think it's a classic?
I don't.
Or do you think it's a villain? Do you think it's just maybe those two? It's like a heaven sent sort of thing.
Russel T Davies has said that they do things in this episode that Who's never done before, and that it is really, really weird. So I've got no idea what to expect. I think he says that it's pushing the boundaries of TV. So.
I'm just expecting the unexpected, and with Russel T Davies, and that's a broad thing to say. But I feel like with this, it's going to be something quite spectacular.
I've heard Stephen Moffat turns up as an Auton.
Is that what you've heard? Yeah, and then Chris Chibnall's there as a
window cleaner.
How fucking dare you?
I guess we'll find out.
We'll have to see.
Let's wrap it up. Lovely to speak to you both. I hope our mums enjoyed listening to this.
Thanks, mums.
Yeah, great. So what we got a 7 out of 10 and 2 8 out of 10s.
I'll be more 7.5. I'll kind of bend a bit because
here we go.
Yeah. No, I won't.
It's the pressure. He's worried about getting cancelled, I think.
Dan, say what you truly feel. You hated Beat the Meat, and you hated the whole episode, and you were like, "This is a solid 2 out of 10." And I actually work for the Daily Mail, and I can't stand any of it.
I just wanted to throw my head so deep in that bath. It was cows. No, it was no. I'm going with a definite 7.5. It was brilliant, but I feel like it can go so much better.
Cut to next week where we're like, what did you think of Wild Blue Yonder? 2 out of 10.
Can I do negative numbers?
Well, this hype, and then it's a 2 out of 10.
I mean, Wild Blue Yonder. I mean, straight away the title could be a 1 out of 10. That's the worst wedding promise ever.
The title's a 1 out of 10. That's what I'm going to call. That's what I'm going to call next week's podcast. The title's a 1 out of 10.
That's literally like, it's like they got into a room and they just went, guys, let's just band some ideas together. Let's just knock our heads together, see what we come out with.
They just got a big hand, went into a Scrabble board and just went, there you go. Yonder.
What's the third one called? I can't remember what the third one's called.
The Giggle.
Oh, the Giggle.
Oh, they fucked
now
that
that's a title.
No, I think that's an absolute amazing title. So I think that next week and the Giggle are going to be much more broader than just the Russel T Davies-esque Doctor Who vehicle.
Behemoth.
I'm sticking with vehicle. But thanks for your suggestion.
That's fine.
I think they should have called the episode Vehicle Behemoth. Dan, quickly, bring in a third word, Dan. Quickly.
Testicle.
Vehicle Behemoth Testicle. And weirdly enough, you'd never believe it. It's an episode with the Ood.
Now that is a 10 out of 10. That's a 10 out of 10 title.
Let's
Right,
end this before we say anything truly catastrophic.
Lovely.
We
to
can
speak
use
to you
some
both.
of this.
It'll be lovely to speak to you both.
Oh, likewise, guys. Pleasure.
So this
See you later, Hooniverse.
this time next week.
You
Let's do
bet
it.
you're fine, jeans.
So how dark is my house? It's mad. Anyway,
It's
all right. Then.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
Oh, he just
He just literally went.
I thought he was going to stop the recording.
Mate, Jerome, it's still recording. How do we? Oh, we can't stop it, can we?
It's such an idiot.
It's still
Oh no!
going.
So does that mean if we finish this,
It's not going to.
we've lost everything?
I think it might fail recording.
What the fucking dickhead! And this is still on record. Hang on.
We're getting back. Where are you, Michael?
Mike, you vehicle behemoth testicle. Look what you've done. Hang on. I'm going to ring him. Folks, stand by. This is going to be great podcast material. You're putting on speaker. Hang on. Mike, you Jabberwocky, you've left the conversation, but you didn't end the recording, and neither me or Dan can end it.
Considering he's a tech expert, he's really fallen flat on his arse here.
You call yourself a tech expert.
You are. It's such. I mean, let's just to give the audience context. It took us almost an hour to set up. He's back.
Oh, here he is.
Jesus Christ!
Well, this is going to be an explosive end to the
Tech
first
expert,
podcast
my
back
arse.
for 2023.